संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Good evening. I am known to like Vedanta, the non-dual kind. And yes, it is true that I usually speak about Vedanta. Come on up here, there's a lot of space. Come. Yeah. So that is true. I do speak about Vedanta, but there are certain levels which I'm very careful about speaking about because of the potentiality for misunderstanding. The text I'm going to base this talk on, Birthless Deathless, is perhaps the most radical statement of non-dual Vedanta found in the entire Vedantic literature. So we're going to speak about this, talk about it, and contemplate this highest non-dual truth, or highest teaching of the non-dual truth this evening. But we must do so with care and caution. I will have occasion to warn you at the beginning and in the middle and in the end so that there is no misunderstanding. In some senses, misunderstanding can be productive of great danger. So with that cheerful note, let me get into the subject. Among all the Upanishads are the root texts of non-dual Vedanta. Among all the Upanishads, the Mandukya Upanishad is the most powerful, the smallest. And in the Mandukya Upanishad, the seventh mantra of the Upanishad is the most powerful, is the peak, the climax of the Upanishad, and I have given talks about that earlier, and I have mentioned it. But tucked away in the later chapters of the Mandukya Karika, you see, the text is, the Upanishad is only 12 mantras. It's very small. And it is embedded in a larger text called the Mandukya Karika. This text was written in its series of verses called Karika, was written by Shankaracharya's guru's guru. So some 1400 years ago, Gaudapada Acharya. So Gaudapada wrote these verses. And he was a radical non-dualist. I remember I once asked a monk, a very scholarly hermit, high up in the Himalayas, used to live in a little hut. And I made friends with him. And one day I asked him, when we read Shankaracharya and we read his teacher's Gaudapada, there seems to be a little difference in tone. They're speaking about the same thing, but there seems to be a little difference in tone. Gaudapada seems to be more radical. Even Shankara, the great non-dualist, seems to be a little tame compared to Gaudapada. Why is that? And this monk said to me in Hindi, and I'll translate back into English for you. He said to me, Gaudapada Acharya to bahut phakkad mahatma the. Now, it's a little difficult to translate. Phakkad, literally in the plains of India, the word phakkad means it's slang for a beggar, what you might call in this country a hobo, a wanderer, homeless. But in the high Himalayas, phakkad has a different meaning. It means a monk who is completely detached, completely turned away from the world. For this person, the world does not exist. A very radical renunciate. So Gaudapada was like that. And then I asked, so in that case, what was Shankaracharya? Or Shankaracharya kya the? What was Shankaracharya? And then this monk said, Shankara. Shankaracharya to Jagat Guru the na. Shankaracharya was a world teacher, meaning thereby that he had to accommodate everybody. Also, the implied meaning is he had to tone down the teachings a little bit, make it palatable to everybody, and give everybody a step-by-step approach to the ultimate truth. So here is Gaudapada, the radical Pakkad, non-dualist. In this text, tucked away, hidden in this text, in the second chapter, it has 4 chapters, Mandukya Karika. In the second chapter, towards the end, is the what might be considered the ultimate statement of the non-dual truth. That is what we are going to talk about this evening. You are like, yes, what is it? Give it to us. Gaudapada says, let me chant the original Sanskrit, which is very inspiring. Come, sit. There's lots of space. Come. Yeah. Gaudapada says, Na nirodho na cha utpatti, na baddho na cha sadhaka, na mumukshur na vai muktaha, ityesha paramarthata. Translating, there is no cessation, there is no origination, no birth, no death. There is none who is in bondage. There is nobody who is a spiritual seeker or spiritual practitioner. There is nobody who is a seeker after liberation, mumukshu. There is nobody who is liberated. Really? What's all this? This is the absolute truth. Esha paramarthata. This is the final truth. Now, to appreciate the radical nature of this statement, one must first take a look at what I call the standard model of Vedanta. In fact, the general model of religion, of spirituality. What's the general model? Here we are born, and if you're Hindu, you're born again, and you die again, and you're born and die, and it goes on and on. But whatever we are born, and we shall die. This is truth for us. And we are told that we are in bondage. Every religion says that in some way. The Christian says there is original sin. The Buddha said there is dukkha. And even Vedanta says we are bound by ignorance, ajnana. We do not know our real nature. We are bound by ignorance. There is bondage. Most of the Hindu schools say that the nature of bondage is karma. The burden of our past karma is upon us, and it propels us through pleasure and pain, through frustration and seeking, from birth to death and death to birth. We are in bondage. And now what happens? When you are in bondage, you have to seek liberation. We are told this. This is the standard model of spirituality. You have to seek liberation. Different terms are given. Moksha, nirvana, salvation, kaivalya. Many terms are there. Every system has a term for it. Liberation. You must become a mumukshu. Literally means a seeker after freedom. And then what do you have to do? There are practices to be done. Sadhana. You must become a sadhaka, a spiritual seeker, a spiritual practitioner. And we all here, all of us, we consider ourselves to be spiritual practitioners. That's why we are here. If you go look at that bookshop there, so many books, they're all full of spiritual practices. Various kinds of spiritual practices. And we do it. Spiritual practitioner, sadhaka. And then what will happen? The standard model tells us, as you do this, you will progress spiritually and finally attain liberation. Muktaha, liberated. And various descriptions of liberation are there. The Vedanta says you'll be liberated in this very life. You realize yourself as Brahman, the ultimate truth. The Sankhya says you separate yourself from material nature, Prakriti, and remain in your glory as pure consciousness, as Purusha. The Buddhist says the false clinging to self melts away and you attain the selfless nature of nirvana. The dualists speak of liberation in various heavens. Go and a magnificent presence of God up in the sublime existence will be there compared to this miserable existence. You're free from all of this. And so liberation. This is supposed to be the spiritual truth. And here comes Gaudapada and reigns on the whole parade. No birth, no death, nobody who is bound, nobody who is seeking freedom, nobody who is practicing spiritual practices, and nobody who has been liberated. And then he has the gall. There's a word I learned in New York. It's called chutzpah. to say, this is the truth. And he calls himself a spiritual teacher. Whatever does he mean? So we'll investigate it this evening, and I will sort of hurry through this because I know you'll have questions. So we'll have some time for questions afterwards. And on Sunday, when we discussed the preliminary teaching, the central teaching of the Upanishad itself, this Sunday, a lot of people had good questions and which we could not address. So if some of you are here, you can ask those questions also. So that's what we will do. But before that, the warning, the caution. Many people are led astray by this kind of teaching, and they say, oh, the real thing is that we don't have to do anything. The first thing they take away from it, oh, I don't have to meditate. I don't have to pray. I don't have to do any kind of spiritual practices. Wrong understanding, and literally a very dangerous understanding. It's destructive of one's spiritual life. So don't jump to that easy conclusion. That's the warning. Give up your spiritual practices at your peril. Never do that. Then what's the point of this teaching? Come on in here. Then what's the point of this teaching? What do we gain from this then? What we will gain actually is a deeper understanding, a much more profound understanding of spiritual life. Really, what is the nature of bondage and freedom? Really, what is the purpose of spiritual practice? All this will become clear when we investigate this. Neither birth nor death. The central teaching of the Mandukya Upanishad, we spoke about it on Sunday, but it is simply stated. Our experience of ourselves is that we have three kinds of experiences. This waking life, here I am, the waker, and here is my waking universe. And I fall asleep and I have dreams. I am there in my own dreams and I do not recognize that I'm dreaming. It's like another waking. And in that dream, I am there and I experience a dream world. And then I go into deep sleep. Neither the external world, nor the world of dreams, neither the waker, nor the dreamer. The deep sleeper is immersed in darkness. And again, everything emerges from that. Not that the world is wiped out. It again emerges from that and we experience the waking world. And this goes on. This is basically the story of our days. This is how our life goes, every day. Now, the Upanishad says, all of this is appearing and disappearing in one consciousness. You are actually not the waker experiencing a waking world, but you are the awareness in which the waker and the waker's world appear. And they disappear in sleep. And you are that one consciousness which experiences a dream world as the dream person and the world of the dream. Again, that disappears. Blankness, that one consciousness experiences the blankness of deep sleep. And again, the waking world reappears. That one consciousness which underlies the waker and the waker's universe, which underlies the dreamer and the dreamer's universe, and which underlies the darkness of deep sleep, that one consciousness is apart from the waker, apart from the dreamer, apart from the deep sleeper, and yet running in and through all of them. That one is called the fourth. Why fourth? Waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. 1, 2, 3. With respect to these three, the underlying consciousness is called the fourth. But you already now know it's not really a fourth kind of consciousness. It is the only consciousness, which under certain conditions is the waker in the waker's universe, is the dreamer in the dream universe, and is in deep sleep. So that one underlying consciousness, both transcendent to our experience and immanent in our experience, that is what we really are. And what Gaudapada says, see, we miss it all the time. It is continuously available to us. Like, you know what it is like, this consciousness. You say, oh, I am in a waking state now, but that fourth, that turiya, that ultimate reality, somehow I have to access that. I don't have access to it now. Wrong. We have access to it now. It is that very consciousness shining through us and giving us the experience of seeing right now. It is in that very consciousness that we hear and listen, we remember and forget, we understand or we do not understand, we desire and strive for fulfilling our desires, we talk and walk and grasp and fight and love. All of these experiences are in that consciousness. But like a fish in water, you're told that there is something called water all around you. The fish misses it because it is so common. It's the background of everything that the little fish knows. So that when it's told that there is water all around, where? Where is this water? Doesn't find it. Our condition is like that. When you're told about pure consciousness, the fourth, Brahman, Atman, the original awareness, the Buddhists have a term, original mind. It all sounds very esoteric. It's very subtle, very beyond our present experience. But the fact is, it is immanent in our present experience. It is because of that consciousness, literally because of that, we are having this experience. Now, in that consciousness, from that consciousness point of view, nothing is actually born, nothing actually dies. To understand it, consider a dream. In a dream, you hear about the birth of a child, of a relative maybe. When you wake up, you say, oh, that was a dream. Nobody was really born. You don't go out looking for gifts for babies. But babies are us. And they say it like this. Yes. You don't go shopping for the baby. No. Nobody was born because it was dreamt up in the dreamer's mind. In the dream, you hear about the death of maybe a person who's known to you. In the morning, when you get up, you say it was a dream. Oh, thank God. You don't go about start looking for a funeral home or Googling which is the nearest place. No. It's because when you wake up, you realize the whole thing was dreamt up in my mind. Nothing really happened in the waking world. Now, exactly like that, what is happening is, in the waking world also, this waking world is experienced in that one background consciousness in which all of this appears and disappears. None of this what we experience now is apart from that field of consciousness. It's not a real thing apart from it. So whatever is experienced as birth here, and growth, and aging, and old age, and disease, and death, origination and cessation, they are all appearances in that one consciousness. They have no reality apart from it. According to Gaudapada, the jiva, the individual being which we consider ourselves to be, it never really originated from the absolute reality and will never, therefore, ever cease into the absolute reality. It's like saying, oh, the sky is blue. There's blue color in the sky. But actually there is not. It just looks like that because of the optics, because of the scattering of light in a particular way. It looks blue now. A little while later it will look red when it is sunset. A little while later it will look black. It will look dark. There's no real blue color there. That's not why southwest planes are blue, because they fly through this blue sky and they get blue. No, you don't have to scrub the blue. You cannot remove the blue color of the sky because the color is not actually blue. In the same way, there is no origination. Do come on in. Yes, there are. Can you open the door? There's, I think, somebody peeking in there. Come on in. Yes. From the point of view of that consciousness, there is no origination and there is no question of cessation also. Just as a person in the dream who seems to be born was really not born and really does not die. Just as the dream world was really not created and really not destroyed when you wake up. When you order pizza and you are eating and then suddenly you wake up in the bed and the bell and the alarm is ringing. Do you think, oh, did I put the pizza in the fridge? I'll have to, tomorrow when I dream, I have to go and finish the pizza there. Otherwise it will be spoiled. No pizza was ever really cooked there, nor will it ever be spoiled. No origination, no cessation, no pizza cessation. What is true of the pizza in the dream is equally true of the world in our waking state also. That is what Gaudapada says. From the point of view of pure consciousness, the Turiya, this world neither originates nor ceases. This is the famous non-origination theory of Gaudapada, Ajatavada, the unborn nature of consciousness. You may say that we are born. Yes, but it is the body which is born. And even the birth of the body is not an event outside consciousness. Just like you see something in a dream, in consciousness, an experience takes place. That there is something called a body which is born, which ages, which finally old age and disease and falls apart. And yet all through, it was nothing other than consciousness. Just as in dreams, whatever happens, all through, it was nothing other than the mind, the dreamer's mind. That's what appeared as a world. No real world was created in a dream. That's what disappeared when you woke up. No real world disappeared. So no origination, no cessation, no birth, no death. You see, the traditional idea, God creates a universe, or the materialist will say a big bang created this universe. Gaudapada says, no, it didn't. God and the creation of the universe, the Big Bang, whether the materialist or the religious person, whatever the theories are, all of them are appearances in awareness, and you are that awareness. I was reading a book called Why Does the World Exist? By Jim Holt. A very nice book. I strongly recommend it. He's a journalist, New York, not that it matters. He had this is the biggest question of all. Why does anything exist at all? It could have been nothing. Could have been nothing. So why does anything exist at all? Why does the universe exist at all? And he goes out with this big question. This is the biggest question of all. And he goes out, come on in. There's lots of space there. Come on in. And he goes out asking this question to theologians, to physicists. He meets Steve Weinberg, the Nobel Prize winners, Roger Penrose. He interviews them, theologians, philosophers, mathematicians, physics professors. And he asks this question, why does the universe exist? And so if you read the book, you will get a thrilling tour of the cutting edge in human thought today, from ancient times till today, the answers to this greatest of all questions. So it's beautiful, it's really thrilling. In fact, again, not that it's relevant directly to this topic, towards the very end, he talks to one of the greatest philosophers now, I think he's passed away, Robert Nozick, is a well-known philosopher. And he's talking about the existence of the universe, why this theory doesn't work, that theory doesn't work. And actually, to my surprise, he says at the end, this philosopher, Robert Nozick, to Jim Holt, he says at the end, who knows? Maybe the Hindus are right, Atman is Brahman. And then Jim Holt has about a page dedicated to Vedanta. He says, but no, it's too crazy, it can't be true. And back to physics and mathematics and theology and God created the universe and so on. If he had asked Gaudapada, why does the universe exist? Gaudapada's answer would have been, it doesn't. It only appears. It's birthless. There's no beginning of this universe. And therefore there is no existence of this universe, and therefore there is no end of this universe also. That which does not begin cannot end either. It's an appearance in awareness, in primordial awareness, which we are. Gaudapada is wonderful. I remember once I was in Uttarkashi. It is not very high, but about 5,000 feet in the Himalayas. It's a very spiritual place. A lot of monks live there. Now, one of the monks in our ashram there, in our order's ashram there, he was thinking very deeply about this question of reincarnation. The Hindus and the Buddhists and the Jains and the Sikhs, all the Indic religions, they believe in many lives. And the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews, they believe in one life. They say this is the only life there is. There's no past lives, there's no future lives, and so on. There is a future existence. You exist, but no more births and deaths. Now, which is true? One life or many lives? One birth and death or many births and deaths? This question of reincarnation, is it this or that? Is there rebirth? In Hindi, the term is punarjanma. So is there rebirth or not? And very soon the other monks in the cottage, the little ashram, they got tired of this theological debate and they wouldn't listen to his arguments anymore. So he took his arguments out and to another Vedanta school a little further down the road there. And was a great Vedanta teacher there. So this monk told me the story himself. He said that I went and asked him now. I said, look, Swami, I have got these arguments for reincarnation and these arguments against reincarnation, punarjanma. Reincarnation, literally rebirth. Punarjanma means rebirth. Now, the story works very nicely in Hindi. Let me tell you and then I'll translate it into English. He goes and asks the Swami, punarjanma hai ki nahi? Is there a rebirth or not? And the Swami said, Are Mahatma ji, jab janma hi nahi to punarjanma kahe ka? Aap Mandukya padhiye. My dear Swami, that teacher replied, when there is no birth, where is the question of rebirth? There is no birth at all. Where is the question of rebirth? Go and read the Mandukya, go and read Gaudapada. So this is Gaudapada. What seems most evident to us, that here I have been born, here I am. He says, oh no, you haven't been born. You are that primordial consciousness which is never born. Come, sit. Sit. There is a verse, there is a sutra in the Brahma Sutras. It says, Asino Sambhavat. Meditation is possible while seated. Vedanta is possible while seated. And liberation is possible while seated. Asino Sambhavat. All right. There is no origination, no destruction, no cessation. Na nirodho na cha utpatti. All right, maybe when you become enlightened and all of that, but right now I am bound. I am a limited human being. I was born. Okay, you will say I am not born, but I don't know that. I am bound by ignorance. When I become enlightened, I will know all these things. But right now, I am bound. And Gaudapada says, no, nobody is bound. Na baddha. How's that possible? How come nobody is bound? Actually, if you think about it, Vedanta shows you, what are you bound to? There's this monk, again in the Himalayas. He became a monk after going through the traditional, householder life, and then finally, later in life, he became a monk. He was wandering in the Himalayas. Once, he was sitting near a little Himalayan village under a tree, morose, sort of dejected. And this little old lady walked by with carrying firewood or something like that. And she saw the monk sitting under a tree, and she said, "Why so sad, my child?" And this monk said, "Mother, I suffer from bondage. I'm bound. Baddha, bandhan mein hu in Hindi. I'm bound." And she said, "What are you bound to? Are you bound to your wife?" And he said, "No, she died." "So are you bound by your children?" "No, they grew up and went away." "So your house and property maybe?" "No, I sold it off when I became a monk." "And your money then? You have money?" "No, I gave away all my money." What are you bound to? Look at that little old lady. What are you bound to? This body? There's no chance of being bound to the body. It will age and decay and die like anybody else. How are you bound to it? It will go away. You can't hold on to it. It is not holding on to you. You are not holding on to it. What are you bound to? To your thoughts? Your bad thoughts? He said, "Yeah, sometimes." Are you bound to that? How many times in a day your mind changes? Bad thoughts turn into good thoughts, joy into misery, serenity into irritation, desire into frustration and into fulfillment and again into desire. So many thoughts, memories come and go. Are you bound by your memories? Are you haunted by your memories? Don't worry, you're getting old. You'll forget. You are not bound to anything. Everything will disappear. This too shall pass. You know the story of this too shall pass? No. Yes? There's this Buddhist monk who comes to visit a kingdom, and the king, who is very devoted to this Buddhist monk, says that, the Buddhists are very big on impermanence. Kshanikam. Buddha said, Kshanikam, Kshanikam, Sarvam Kshanikam. Momentary, momentary, indeed, everything is momentary. Actually, the whole statement was Anityam, Anityam, Sarvam Anityam. Impermanent, impermanent, all is impermanent. And then, Kshanikam, Kshanikam, Sarvam Kshanikam. Not only impermanent. We know things are impermanent, but as long as they last for my ends, it's good enough. No, they are momentary. They don't last for more than a moment. Momentary, momentary, all is momentary. He doesn't stop there. Somebody said, the Buddha is one serious dude. He doesn't stop there. He goes further. Shunyam, shunyam, sarvam shunyam. Void, void, all is void. And therefore, dukkam, dukkam, sarvam dukkam. Because we do not realize this. We cling to the impermanent as if it were permanent. Dukkam, dukkam, sarvam dukkam. All is pain, pain, all is pain. I was listening to a Buddhist teacher, a very wise Tibetan Lama. I met him in Dehradun. I heard he has passed away last year. He was one of the greatest leaders of Tibetan Buddhism. He said, the end of all meeting is separation. I'm sorry, but separation. We are going to separate very soon, within the hour. The end of all accumulation, wealth, knowledge, power, fame. Well, the end of all accumulation is dissipation and exhaustion. It will go away, guaranteed. The end of all climbing, the height, is falling. Whatever heights anybody has reached, in any sphere, they're bound to fall. And he said, and the end of all birth is death. The end of all creation is destruction. Meeting, separation. Accumulation, dissipation, exhaustion. Rising, falling. And all creation and birth will inevitably. Yeah. What are you attached to? You are not attached to anything. We think we are attached to it. Take the most intense kind of attachment. I'll tell you, the most intense kind of attachment is what we know is a young mother with her baby. That's what dominates her entire thinking. She's helplessly attached to the kid, to the child. And yet, even that young mother, when she falls asleep at night, the baby, the most precious thing to her in the universe, she forgets completely. And she goes into deep sleep, into slumber, happily in a relaxed mood, forgets the baby, forgets the world, forgets her own body, also all gone. And it happens all naturally, without resisting. We don't think about it that way. We think that the mother herself will heave a sigh of relief. At last I'm getting some sleep. But think about it. What a strange, if you look at it this way, it's a very strange phenomenon. I'm attached intensely to something and it's being taken away from it. I'm falling asleep, it's going. I should be clutching onto it for dear life. No, I happily let go. What are you attached to? Even the mother is not attached to her most precious thing in the world, the baby. No, we think we are. Thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on, Swami Vivekananda said. Thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Then, let go thy hold, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Na baddhaha, nobody is bound. You say, but I feel bound. That's it. You feel bound. You feel caught. There's this young novice who went to a teacher who lived in a cave and said, "Give me freedom." And the monk said, "Okay, you stay here for some time, you keep coming and I'll..." So days passed and the monk made him sweep the cave and fetch food from the village and cut firewood and things like that, until this young man got tired of it. "When are you going to give me freedom? If you don't give me freedom soon, I'm going to go away and do another master." And then this monk thought, "Oh, I'm going to lose such a nice disciple." Then he said, "Okay, tomorrow I'll give you freedom. Come early in the morning tomorrow." And this young man goes early in the morning, very happy. He sees the monk is outside the cave. This old banyan tree was there outside the cave. And the monk is hugging it for dear life and shouting, "Free me, free me, free me." And this young man comes and says, "But master, let go." And the master said, "Exactly." Precisely. You might say it's not as easy as that. True. But the difficulty lies not with that, with the reality. The difficulty lies within us. We make it difficult. I am clutching on for dear life. Now if somebody tries to free me, tries to pry away my fingers from the tree one by one, it will be a terrible struggle because I'm putting all my effort into holding on. Na baddha, nobody is bound. You are not bound either. Gaudapada says, right now, you are not bound. Nacha sadhakaha. There is nobody who is a spiritual practitioner. That's even more shocking, but because most of us here, we have almost, I think just about every one of us, monks, nuns, devotees, we all think of ourselves as spiritual practitioners. Many of us, we have been practicing for a long time, many different disciplines and practices, and we have got benefit from it also. So what do you mean we are not spiritual practitioners? We pray, we do selfless acts of service, we chant and we sing and we meditate and we do yoga and pranayama, we do philosophy, so many things, spiritual practices. Nacha sadhaka, there's nobody who's a spiritual practitioner. What does he mean here? Think about it this way. Spiritual practice, in Sanskrit, it is called sadhana, spiritual practice. It is actually, the terms are sadhaka, sadhan and sadhya. Sadhya means a goal to be attained. Sadhan is the means by which you attain the goal. And I become a sadhaka, a practitioner, when I use these means to attain that goal. So you wanted to come to the Vedanta Society. And this is your goal, sadhya. And the means you use are your car and the 101. You drive along that is your sadhana. The sadhan, the means you use. And you are the sadhaka, the practitioner, who uses these means to come here, and the whole process is called sadhana, spiritual practice. And all the practices are meant to achieve certain goals. And they work. They do it. Karma yoga. My problem is selfishness. So I engage in unselfish action, doing good, without any thought of gain. I don't want anything from it. Let me keep on doing it. And that actually wipes out selfishness from my mind. It expands my heart. It makes me humble. It reduces my ego. Does it actually work? Yes, it does. There is a practice and there is a goal. Selfishness is the problem, unselfishness is the goal, and the method is karma yoga. Various kinds of karma yoga. My mind is disturbed, scattered, unfocused. Can't settle down. Then the goal is concentration of mind, focus of mind. And the practice is various kinds of meditation practices, Raja Yoga. Various kinds of meditation practices are there. Do they work? Certainly. You sit down and you breathe in this way and you focus in this way, and over time, as you go on doing it, the scattered mind becomes concentrated. Works. Bhakti yoga. My mind runs to the world. I want this and that. I collect all of that wanting and direct it towards God. And through prayer and music and hymns and worship, slowly genuine love, a pull towards God. Instead of I want the world, I want God. Bhakti develops. It works. I'm a spiritual practitioner. Even the path of knowledge. I do not know this pure consciousness you're talking about. And as I practice, the more classes and talks I come to in Vedanta Society, and as I think about it, as I meditate upon it, and I get this insight, oh, I am this pure consciousness. It's also a kind of, it's a practice in a way. It removes ignorance. All of them are practices, and they give their goals. So what do you mean we are not spiritual practitioners? Gaudapada and Shankara here helps us. He says, you, the reality, that one consciousness in which waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, in your waking you are a spiritual practitioner. Maybe in your dreams also. But that consciousness itself, is it a spiritual practitioner? Is it something to be gained by spiritual practice? I am Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. Is it something to be gained? Shankaracharya says, what can you do by spiritual practice, by any kind of work? He says, Utpadya, Apya, Vikarya, Samskarya. 4 things can be done. One is produce something. So can I produce this pure consciousness? No. As we just said, birthless, deathless. It's always there. It is the only thing that is there, right now. It can't be produced by spiritual practice. Okay, it can't be produced, but can I attain it? Can I go? For example, I can go on a pilgrimage and attain and go to a holy place. Maybe after death I can go to heaven. Can I go there? Can I get it? Can I attain it? No, you cannot attain it. It is you. Any movement that you do will be away from it. You see, it's you right now. I'll tell you a story about it a little later. How it is you and how we miss it all the time. A very funny story. But anyway, the other thing is vikarya. So, okay, I get it. But right now I'm a kind of impure consciousness. I'm consciousness plus mind plus body in a kind of a body-mind system. Can I change it into pure consciousness? He says, no. All change is also in consciousness, not of consciousness. As the body changes from childhood to teenage to youth to middle age to old age, all of these are noted by consciousness. It's not consciousness which has aged. Consciousness is aware of the body which ages. I was in Santa Barbara and one of the nuns was telling me the story how one of her acquaintances, long-time acquaintances, this other lady told the nun, look at those people, they've grown old. And the nun told her friend, we've grown old too. And she says, her friend says, no, they've grown old, we are not old. And she's right. It's the body which changes. Consciousness experiences the changes in the body. Consciousness does not change. Vikarya, you cannot change yourself into pure consciousness. Samskarya, can you refine yourself? I get it. But pure consciousness, I'm a kind of impure consciousness now. Now, can I scrub myself and clean myself and wash myself into pure consciousness? No, you cannot do that. You are already pure consciousness. It is because of that pure consciousness, because of the light of that awareness, that you note the impurity in the mind. I say, I am impure. That impurity also appears to the mind, to the consciousness. And when you do a lot of spiritual practices, the mind feels pure and sublime and elevated. It's the same consciousness which reveals the newly gained purity of the mind. Consciousness in itself is ever pure. Neither produced, nor utpadya, nor attained, nor apya, because it is ever attained. Nor changed, nor vikarya, nor refined, nor samskarya. You are already that. But you miss it. Why do you miss it? Because we are looking in the wrong place. We are taken away by the contents of the mind, by the appearances of consciousness, and we are not looking back to that which illumines all these appearances. The story of Mullah Nasruddin, very funny person and very wise always. So he spent his time, it seems, he would drive a caravan of donkeys loaded with lots of stuff across the border of the kingdom to the next kingdom, and they would come back again and again, drive another caravan of donkeys loaded with lots of stuff. And the border guards, they knew this guy was a smuggler. And they searched and searched everything, but he had documents for everything. So they couldn't find out what was he smuggling. But they knew this guy is too clever by half. He is smuggling something. And he would just grin and drive his caravan off. And then again, the next month or he would be back with another caravan of donkeys loaded with lots of stuff. Finally, he retired. And one day he met these guards who had already retired by that time. And they sat down and they were for a meal together. And they were friendly. And they said, Mullah Nasruddin, I can't bear it. One of the guards said, you must tell me. I know you are a smuggler. But I can't, for the world of me, I can't understand what is it that you're smuggling. What were you smuggling? Mullah chuckled, don't you know, I was smuggling donkeys. We miss it all the time. It's literally there right here, all the time. This unborn awareness, this goal of all spirituality and religion, realizing knowing which to be, I am Brahman, I am that. One is freed of all suffering, of all bondage, of birth and death forever. You attain moksha, liberation, nirvana, whatever you call it. It's already there right now. All you have to do is notice it. It's being smuggled under our noses all the time. All the time. Yeah. Yes. Nacha sadhaka. There's no spiritual practitioner. He's so radical, there's nothing to be gained by spiritual practice. But be careful. Don't give up your spiritual practices. If you feel the world pulls me, my mind is worldly, bhakti will help. It should be diverted towards God. Sri Ramakrishna says, change your passions, more piriyada, divert them towards God. It will work. If a mind is scattered, there are a multitude of meditation teachings. In fact, so many that the meditation teachings may themselves scatter your mind. So many things, so many techniques are available now. Try a different one every other week. That's the problem. The world has become a supermarket of spirituality now. And no more than these two places. And I have the privilege of living in these two places. One is Hollywood and one is Manhattan. They're at one time very spiritual and very materialistic. Both of these places. All of it is available there. So, all of these work and they should be done, but realize, none of them are going to give you that ultimate goal which you already are. When all of these practices bear fruit finally, when we realize what we truly are, it's not that we'll realize that, I was in bondage, after all of these spiritual practices, now I have attained freedom. No. What we will realize is, I always was free. I just didn't see it. Freedom was that donkey which was going under my nose all the time. I never saw it. Na sadhaka. Then what about seeking for liberation? Na mumukshahu. Nobody is there who seeks liberation. Okay, let me hurry it up. Nobody is there who seeks liberation. After all, what is seeking liberation? Mumuksha means seeking liberation. You see, not knowing that we are Sat, absolute being, immortal existence. We seek to exist in these limited bodies. In Sanskrit, this is called jijivisha, desire to live. This desire to live is one side of the coin, the other side of which is a terrible fear, the greatest fear of our lives for everybody, the fear of death. The moment we realize we are Sat, pure being, no question of death, you cannot die, the real you, then this desire to exist in this particular body will disappear immediately. That is moksha, that is freedom. It's not that we will die the moment we are enlightened. Enlightenment is not suicide. This body will continue to exist. We will continue to exist as we are. By the past karma of this body, it will continue to exist. But you know that you don't need to exist in a particular body. This desire to exist in this limited sense, this is what drives us from birth to death and death to birth. What is mumuksha, desire for liberation? We do not know we are chit, pure consciousness. not knowing our nature as infinite consciousness, we continuously seek to know limited things. Vritti jnana, with limited things. The moment we know that we are unlimited consciousness, this continuous desire, jigyasa, to desire to know limited things, this will disappear. That is moksha. Then it does not mean that, oh, I'm enlightened, now I'm going to be very dull, I don't want to know anything. No, I've seen Swami Ranganathanji, whom I consider to be one of the few enlightened beings I've seen in my life. He was so interested in art, in science especially, in philosophy, in religion. He would read 8 to 10 hours a day till the age of 95. I've seen this myself. When he was in ICU, the days before passing away, he was reading this huge book called Zen and the Brain about meditation and neuroscience. This big book, thick book. And I've seen, it's so touching. He used to underline whatever he read. Here is this 95-year-old monk who is going to die in the next few hours. He's still reading and underlining, and the hand is shaking so much that you can see the underlining, like it is going down towards the bottom of the page. It's off, it's not symmetrical. The book is still there in the Belur Mutt. He read till the very end of his life. He was very curious. In this empirical world, in this relative world, there are wonderful things to know. But you are no longer seeking for the ultimate truth about the universe and about yourself. You already know. You already know. We do not know we are Ananda, bliss. And therefore we keep seeking pleasure outside. This is called bubhuksha, desire to enjoy. The moment we realize our Ananda nature, bliss nature, then this desire to seek fulfillment outside, you are ever fulfilled. The desire to seek fulfillment outside vanishes. This is moksha. Not knowing Sat, we have jijivisha, desire to exist in limited way. Not knowing Chit, we have jigyasa, desire to know little things in the world. Not knowing ourselves as Ananda, we have bubhuksha, desire to enjoy, to eat in the world outside. Knowing our Ananda nature, the Ashtavakra puts it so beautifully. Yatra bhati yatra vishwam idam bhati kalpitam rajju sarpavat ananda paramananda sabodhastvam sukham chara. Very beautiful. It says, where this entire universe appears like a rope, like a snake misperceived in a rope. Where this entire universe appears. Where is that? That pure consciousness you are. In you the entire universe appears. And what is the nature of this pure consciousness? Ananda Paramananda. It is the nature of ultimate bliss. That is what is experienced as the entire range of bliss, from worldly bliss to the highest spiritual joy. That Ananda, that Paramananda, which is experienced as Ananda, that you are. Sukham chara, now live happily. Ashtavakra says that. Na mumukshuhu. Shankaracharya sings, na dharmo na chartho na kamo na moksha chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. I seek neither religious merit, dharma. I seek neither pleasure, kama, nor do I seek wealth and power, artha. That's all right. You're a spiritual seeker. You don't seek these things. These are secondary. But he also says, I do not seek liberation. No moksha. I don't seek liberation. Why? Chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Because I've realized myself as the ultimate bliss of the nature of Shiva. So na mumukshuhu. Na muktaha. There is nobody who's liberated. He said, Swami, you just said Swami Ranganathananda was one of the few enlightened, liberated beings. Now you are saying there's nobody who's liberated? But look more carefully. Gaudapada has this deeper meaning always. It's like this. It's pretty easy to actually grasp. Nisargadatta. Once somebody said, you are a Brahmagyani, you are a knower of Brahman, an enlightened person. And he could be quite rough. There is actually one person here who has actually met Nisargadatta. I don't know if he's here today. Radhakrishnan has not come today. He met Nisargadatta. He could be, Nisargadatta could be very, you know who I'm talking about? I am that. Yeah. Yeah. So he could be very rough actually. So Nisargadatta immediately was upon him like a ton of bricks. He said, "You are insulting me." Insulting you? You're a knower of Brahman. Knower of Brahman is the highest praise that you can give to a person. That means you're an enlightened being. You're a knower of Brahman, Brahmagyani. He said, "I am not a Brahmagyani, I am Brahman. I am not a knower of Brahman, I am Brahman." The enlightened person does not think that I am somebody who has become enlightened. Never claims that I'm a person who is enlightened now. I'm a person who knows Brahman. That is not enlightenment. So, now muktaha. Technically in Vedanta they will say, the enlightened person is not a person who has become enlightened. Na muktaha, moksha swarupa. Not jnani, jnana swarupa. Jnani means a person who has got knowledge. But jnana swarupa means consciousness itself, which makes that knowledge possible. So, na muktaha. I am not a person who's... See, I like this phrase that you never get freedom. You get freedom from that person which we are. That person never gets freedom. You get freedom from the person. Not that the person goes away. The person is still there, but you know you are not that person. Just as you are not all these other persons, you are not this person also. You are that consciousness in which this person appears. See, this is put so beautifully in the dream example. You know, in the dream, you are dreaming. When you don't know that you are dreaming, in your dream you are also there, right? As a person in the dream. And you are interacting with other persons, but you are not that person. When you wake up, you realize, I was in my bed all along and I dreamt up the whole thing, including myself in the dream. So one teacher of Vedanta put it so precisely, these terms are very precise in Sanskrit. He said, Swapna Purush nahi, Swapna Drashta. Swapna Purush means the person in the dream. You are not the person in the dream. Swapna Drashta means you are the seer of the dream, which is true for our dreams. Exactly like that here, you are not the person what you experience yourself to be, but you are the consciousness in which the person is experienced. Now muktaha. Then he gives us the key to the whole thing. Why did he do this? Gaudapada says, Ityesha paramarthata. This is the absolute truth. That means, is there some other kind of truth? Yes. Vedanta has this two levels of truth, the doctrine of two truths. Actually, there are many ways of putting this. There is something called Trisattavada, three levels of reality. Dvisattavada, two levels of reality. Ekasattavada, only one level of reality. So the three-level reality model is something that is taken by Shankaracharya for teaching us. Most of the commentaries are written at that level. What it does is, there is an ultimate reality called Brahman. That appears as our transactional reality which we live in right now. What we think to be real right now is the transactional reality, in Sanskrit, Vyavaharika Satta. And also in this transactional reality, there are lower grades of reality, errors and dreams and illusions. We know that a snake in a rope. So the snake is an illusory reality, and the rope is the transactional reality, and Brahman is the ultimate reality. So you have three levels of reality. Ultimate reality, Brahman. Transactional reality, this. And if somebody is sleeping here and dreaming, is in an illusory reality. So three levels of reality are there. Ultimate, transactional, illusion and dream or error. And this is done, it says this is for the lowest grade of student. Dull. If you're feeling insulted, don't. Most of us are at that level. It says if you are a smart cookie, then you go for this two-level reality model. There is one reality, Brahman, the pure consciousness, and the rest of it is error. Even this waking reality and your dreams, they are all equated. Gaudapada does some of that in the Mandukya. He treats dream and waking as the same. He says there are only two states. We say there are three states, waking, dreaming and deep sleep. He says there are only two states, dreaming and sleeping. Sleeping is sleeping, and waking and dreaming are both dreaming. See, there are only two states. He equates dreaming and waking to be absolutely equal. And you might say, no, there is a difference. You can't just do that. And there's a very interesting essay where he cuts down every possible objection to equating dreaming and waking. 10 objections are put up. You won't even think of some of them. When you look at that, yes, dreams are dreams and waking is real because of this. 10 points. And he cuts them down, all of them, till you get this very creepy sensation that this is also a dream. It's not real. You really feel that when you read that. So, 2 levels of reality. But this is not the end. If you're the really, really sharp cookie, the smartest kid in the class, then for you there is a fast track course, which is 1 level of reality. Brahman only. There is no world at all. That is called the non-origination theory. And this verse is for that level of student, what we discussed today. I think I'll stop here. I've taken up all my time. I wanted to have some time for Q&A, but very quickly, if you have questions.
No, you can take 20 minutes.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Very good. We have those who want to wait for a little while. We'll take 10 minutes maybe. Yes, there is a microphone here. The lady here, you can ask your question. Just tell us your name and ask the question.
Hi, I'm Diane.
Diane.
I had major surgery about 3 years ago, and I had an amazing experience during, I think, the surgery.
Yes.
I was looking up, and it was a huge black sky, no stars, and it was unconditional love like I've never experienced before. It was total silence, black, and just eternal black sky. And then all of a sudden I was in a room that was all white with all my dead relatives, and they were all in white, and we were just sitting enjoying ourselves. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I said, what a lovely dream. I haven't even had the operation yet. Mm-hmm. And then I feel this searing pain in my hip, and yes, I did have the operation.
Right.
What are those 2 states?
Okay. First of all, you're lucky to have these experiences, because often these experiences, near-death experiences, or in a state of anesthesia, they deepen our spiritual lives. Now, what Vedanta would say here is, or if you ask Gaudapada would say is that I am not so much interested in the contents of your experience as the experiencer itself. That which experienced that emptiness in the blank sky, that which experienced that bodilessness and sudden appearance of all dead relatives at one time. See, these are very spiritual experiences. But Gaudapada pushes you further. He's a tough taskmaster. He said, who is experiencing it? Who is experiencing it? Yes. But when you have these spiritual experiences, it's easier to take the jump from there to the awareness in which all this is appearing and disappearing. That awareness. See, notice one thing. This experience you had definitely is a spiritual experience. But remember, notice one thing about this experience. It came and went. Now it's a beautiful memory. Right?
I just long to go back there.
Right. Don't. Yes. What we are doing is, we have these experiences, and it's very natural to repeat beautiful experiences. Whether they are worldly experiences, sensuous experiences, intellectual experiences, aesthetic experiences, or spiritual experiences, we all want to repeat it. And that urge is good, especially the urge what you have, because it is a spiritual urge. It takes you towards this sublime experience. But Gaudapada says something very important. All of these experiences, worldly and spiritual, are nothing compared to the glory of your own self. That consciousness in which these experiences are appearing. See, one Vedanta teacher said, they can be rough. Somebody went and was telling Swami, these are my problems and sufferings in life. And that Swami said quite harshly, I'm not interested in your problems. This person was shocked. Not interested in your problems. I'm interested in you. See, immediately a gap opens up between me and my problems. I am not my problems. Similarly, I am also not my best experiences. They come and go. I am the light in which these appear. I am the existence in which these come and go. They arise and disappear. So that's what Vedanta would point you towards. And it's good to go towards that, easy to go towards that when you have such experiences. You can take that further step. Questions? Somebody back there? All right, that gentleman, I'll come back to you. Tell us your name and...
My name is Karthik. So the question I have is liberation an experience? And there are two parts to it. Can you read your way to liberation?
Okay. Is liberation an experience, and can you read your way? The second one is something that I never heard put in that particular form. But good that you asked it. Is liberation an experience? No. It's not an experience. It is that reality in which all experiences appear and disappear. It's not a particular experience. If it were a particular experience, it would arise and disappear. What is a particular experience is the liberating insight. In Vedanta, it is called Brahmakara Vritti. That is a particular experience. It comes in a flash, but what it does is it does not confer you liberation. It removes the very precise definition. It removes the ignorance that we are bound. That's all it does. Bondage in the mind is removed by the liberating knowledge in the mind. And you realize you always were liberated. Little while ago, Gaudapada said, we read, now muktaha, nobody is liberated, which means you are ever liberated. That's what we realize. Moksha swarupa, na muktaha. The second one is, can you read your way to liberation? Answer is yes and no. First of all, direct answer, no. One must realize that one is liberated. That realization, everything else is for that. Meditation is for that. Devotion is for that. Selfless work is for that. This Vedantic philosophy we are doing is for that. All of this goes towards that, to that realization. Call it realization, enlightenment, whatever you call it. That must come. And what is the role of reading? Remember one thing, the way Vedanta puts the whole problem, ignorance is the problem and knowledge is the solution. So Vedanta is a knowledge system. If it is a knowledge system, it must be based on texts, based on teachings. They could be orally transmitted, could be transmitted through books, nowadays with books. So that's where reading enters the whole picture. But reading books is not sufficient in itself. The books there, the difference between this knowledge and everything else is, the texts in a physics or mathematics course can give you the knowledge directly. This can only point you towards the knowledge. All that you read in the Vedantic texts, including Mandukya, Gaudapada would be the first to agree. Even this Mandukya, it points you towards the truth. Even this entire formulation which we are doing, we have called it the highest statement of non-dual truth. But even this is a pointer. This is also not the exact truth. Gaudapada himself says in a later verse, Advaitam icchanti kechana, Advaitam icchanti chapare, Dvaita Dvaita vivarjitam tattvam. What an incredible statement. He says, some people love duality. God and I are separate. Some prefer non-duality. Actually, and Gaudapada himself is a non-dualist. But look what he says. Truly speaking, the reality lies beyond duality and non-duality. Then what is it? You can't say anything anymore. Either you can say duality, language functions in duality, at the most it can indicate non-duality. But if you say beyond non-duality, then what can you say? Yeah. It has to be caught. Right. I'll come to you. Yeah. Can you bring it here? Tell us your name and ask the question.
Hi, my name is Phyllis. Would you please distinguish between mukta and moksha again?
Right.
Please?
Moksha is liberation, freedom, as distinguished from bondage. So I think I am this person with this body and this mind, and maybe this body will die, I will go into other bodies, be born in different places. Or if I don't believe in all of that, I'll believe that I will sit waiting for the final judgment when when it's decided whether I go to heaven and live with God or whatever. So this is bondage, and I will get some kind of liberation. That is called moksha. In Vedanta, the way it is put is, moksha means you realize your infinite nature. Now, when you realize your infinite nature, that is freedom, moksha, but then the person who gets this freedom or moksha is called muktaha, the liberated one. And this is what Gaudapada attacks. He says that state it's not a state, it is the ultimate reality. It is always there. We just don't know it. And when you know it, then you're not a person who has known it, you become one with it. You are, the literal word is moksha swarupa, the very nature of freedom. You are freedom itself. And that's the way it is put.
So then mukta for a truly liberated person doesn't exist.
Mukta is a conventional term which works for us at this secondary level of reality. We can talk about a liberated being against a non-liberated being. A person liberated in life, Jivan Mukta. All of this works for us. This is the transactional level of reality which we seem to inhabit. Here all of this makes sense. But ultimate reality has to be pointed out that from that point of view, nobody is a mukta. It's ultimately only that thing exists. Brahman alone exists. Yes. Can you pass that on?
Thank you, Swami. So I'm curious about Gaudapada, and I guess it's a more subtle question, but when I'm curious about somebody who's like so radically non-dual
Yes.
in his thinking and writings, and whether he, in his other writings, was ever even sort of interested in the transactional level of reality, or whether he sort of connected his his vision of supreme reality as being no birth, no death. But if he allied that with suffering at all as an explanation, like, well, here's why, here's what the big error is. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm making much sense. But here's the, if he focused on anything as being the specific error that humans made to create suffering.
I sort of get the sense of what you're asking. What I feel sometimes is, Gaudapada is not as radical as he is made out to be. Basically, Gaudapada and Shankara are saying the same thing. Shankara tones it down a bit for everybody. Gaudapada does not believe in toning down things. He just puts it out there straight away. Now, other writings, it's interesting you should mention that. We don't know much about his other writings, because all that we know about is the Mandukya Karika, which is very, very famous. But two other lesser texts I know Gaudapada is supposed to, is other attributed to him. It's a commentary on the Sankhya Karika. There's a Gaudapada Bhashya on the Sankhya Karika, which is the verses on the system of Sankhya. And if you read the commentary, it's fairly humdrum. It's nothing like this. So we don't know if it's the same Gaudapada. And the other one is even more stunning. There's a book called Subhagodaya. Subhagodaya. It's not well known because I don't think there's any English translation. I tried to read part of it once. You know what it is? It's supposed to be composed by Gaudapada Acharya. It's a hymn to the Divine Mother. Very deep tantric hymn to the Divine Mother. The traditional teachers, the lineage says that it is Gaudapada. And it wouldn't surprise me. Shankara also worshipped the Divine Mother. And of course, Vivekananda and all of them did. Yes. So if you say, now to answer your question directly, if you say what is the crucial problem that Gaudapada would have identified, like any other non-dualist, he would have identified it as ignorance. Ignorance of our ever liberated nature. Remove that by knowledge, and you know yourself to be ever liberated. Okay. We have two more questions. We'll stop. That person there and there.
I probably don't need that.
No, but speak there because I think they are recording it.
Thanks.
Tell us your name.
My name is Ron.
what you're speaking of and you always speak of, I do have experience of that occasionally, even maybe every day. But it's fleeting, and then I'm off, and then I sort of remember.
All right. Can I stop you right there? Notice what you said. I have experience of it, but it is fleeting. I'm there, and then I'm off, and then I remember. What is it there which identifies that I am having that experience, and it is gone, and I remember? That one, which noticed that fleeting nature of that experience, that one, does that one ever go away?
No.
No. You are that.
Right.
Right.
It's more
Yes.
peaceful when it's real, when it's
Right.
not covered over.
Again, you look at the language. Now, this is very, very important. You said it is more peaceful when it is not covered over. Absolutely right. But that one which notices the presence and the absence of peace, that one which notices the uncovered nature of the truth and the covered over, disturbed, humdrum nature of the day-to-day quotidian mind, that one, is it ever disturbed?
No.
No. That's what you are.
Thanks.
I'm glad you asked this question.
Thanks.
Very good. Okay, last person. Please tell us your name.
My name is Miranda, and I'm new, and I'm trying to find an anchor to push my brain as far as it can go with an
Oh,
analogy.
I'm sorry, this is not the place to start.
An
Gaudapada
analogy.
is not the place to start at all.
Okay, so there's a Pirandello play called Six Characters in Search of an Author. And I recently decided to reread all the great books, and I've got Tolstoy on the car thing, and I found myself on the 101 wishing that all the novels, all the time, with all the characters, could be on my sound system at one time, that I had that kind of brain. So when I think of Brahman, and I think of all the phenomenal world, am I going down the wrong track to think of Brahman as the ultimate author of all phenomenon, all at one time? Is it created? It is the ultimate creation of all of this. Does any of that make sense?
Miranda, you were just reciting in English one of the most ancient texts in the world, the Rig Veda, which says, Pashya Devasya Kavyam, look upon the epic poetry of the great poet. Najiryati namamara, which neither decays nor dies. What is that epic poem? It's the universe. In the Rig Veda, the Brahman is called the poet with a capital P. And the universe is the poetry of Brahman. Look upon the poetry of the eternal poet, the poem which neither decays nor dies. This is this universe. That's a beautiful way to end this session. Let me end with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.